I've always said Contra's
Mhm.
style is to basically say things and say complicated ideas, post complicated ideas, and not come to clear answers because she doesn't want to risk putting herself out there on a position, or because she's just gives up and says it's complicated. She's
Mhm.
basically the Tim Pool of BreadTube. Okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But with this video, she's completely reversed that trend. And all
Yes,
it is
in a big way.
yeah, she's just, I'm saying all the same rehashed bullshit, woke talking points you've all heard a million times, but I'm saying it in a room that matches the quote unquote queer aesthetic. So
Yeah, I know.
people
I
will
have
like it.
candles.
I've got candles.
But
I got the big Carmen Sandiego hat on. I got the wallpaper. I got a big chair.
I do like the aesthetic, so
I know you do.
I'll give her that much. I feel like you and I try to focus on, I guess, just the pragmatism in us. Like, I want actual substance. Like, how does this affect the real world? Word games are fucking games. I mean, all this is just like politics. People are so sick of that.
Well, I guess
does this help? Well, I can't use the word. Like, is this the word that I cannot say? The activist, is this helping trans people?
the bliffle snaps. I already forgot the word.
Yeah.
Is helping the bliffer snaps?
Well, I was going to say, is this activism? Is this helpful for how is this helpful for trans people? That's what I want to know.
Right. Well, if you want to talk about pragmatism, I would argue that the main pragmatic result or purpose of the video is just for Contra to signal that she's an ally on a lot of these issues.
Okay.
That's how it reads to me.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, okay. But just this lack of substance is really. We're defining bigotry now.
Yeah.
Servitude is a lot less prevalent than it used to be, and transphobia is a prejudice that's getting much louder, because in the last decade, trans liberation has increased our visibility. People are running into us at work now. They're having to use our pronouns. They're seeing us in politics or in media, and not just as laughingstocks or monsters like we used to be, but as actual characters. And a lot of people are not very happy about it. They feel threatened. That must be super fucking hard for you. Prejudice replaces.
She's like, this is like the trigger the conservatives thing.
Yeah,
she's like, oh, we're not doing this because we're enjoying it. We're doing it because you're hating it.
Well, I wonder if Twitter and social media didn't exist, there would be so much less. People wouldn't have like any of these problems with like the trans activists, because it'd be like, oh, the Kardashian guy, is transitioned. Everyone's like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I support people transitioning. That would be like the end of the conversation. We wouldn't have all this nonsense about pronouns and you have to use all the right fucking words and all this nonsense. This all just comes from social media and the constant looking for something to complain about.
I don't know anyone though that's anti-trans. I don't know anyone that's like would match.
Well, you live in California land, so maybe.
Match the caricature that she's putting forward.
What do you mean? You are one of those people, Adam. You're a bigot.
What? Come on now. Did Joe Biden steal my come on man? I feel like he
Come
did.
on, guys. Come on now, guys.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Places social barriers of another kind. So J.K. Rowling frames her position as, I'm just saying the fact that sex is real. It's not hateful to say a fact. Why is everyone so mad at me? A fact can't be bigoted. And I agree that a fact cannot be bigoted, but a fact on its own doesn't mean very much. Usually when we discuss facts, we're using those facts to tell a story, and facts can be used to tell bigoted stories. Suppose someone tweets the fact that the homicide rate is higher for Black Americans than white Americans. I'm gonna ask, what story are you trying to tell with this fact? What political goal are you trying to support?
I'm trying to win at woke bingo. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry,
But
I had to add some comic relief here.
well, and the thing is, that's true. That oftentimes people, the fact itself doesn't matter. It's paired with some narrative, and that's where you question. But people on both sides, what they do is they always try to deny the fact that creates the most obvious narrative.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw this all last year with the police shootings, the Black Lives Matter protest and riots with the police shootings. It's like, well, if you look at the facts, there is not some overwhelmingly massive, disproportionate amount of police shooting unarmed black men. It's just not happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, the fact supports both narratives. That's why there's the narrative conflict. Because
the fact doesn't really support both narratives, not in terms of the shooting stuff.
The homicide rate for black people being high? Well, I don't know. First of all, I don't know if it's true, but
she's saying the homicide rate for black people by other black people is very high. Because they always say like, oh, if Black Lives Matter really cared about black lives, they would talk about
she wasn't specific
on black crime.
She wasn't specific about the.
But that's what she's referring to.
Okay.
I assume that's what she's referring to.
Well, I don't know. Like if she's just talking about like black homicide rates being high, you could easily make the argument that that's because everyone's racist against them. Of course they're going to get pissed off and kill people. Like the woke narrative works.
Yeah, but that only works.
Facts support the woke narrative.
That would only work if it was white people or non-black people killing black people, which is not the case.
That's why
people are killed by their
That's why she was probably not as specific, because then it does support her narrative.
Well, no, she's just making this point that like, oh, it's fine for you to talk about the black on black crime statistic. Mm-hmm. But where the problem is that, you're using a fact, a statistic to push a narrative. And it's like, that's true. But at the same token, that doesn't mean that you get to attack the fact as being untrue. And this is what we're constantly seeing from the Wokeistan people, especially with the whole the gender stuff. That's why they attack the fact that obviously gender does have biological components to it, and to deny that is to literally deny science.
The fact, yeah.
Yes.
One way indirect bigotry works is by camouflaging political struggles as intellectual debates. When Joanne says sex is real, she sounds like she's staking out a position in the trans debate, which is then presented as an intellectual conflict about the metaphysics of gender, instead of what it really is, which is a political conflict about the social equality of transgender people.
This is sort of like a false
conflict about the metaphysics of gender, instead of what it really is, which is a political.
Because you can't say something is a political conflict that doesn't also have a philosophical underpinning, because that's where, except for like, obviously there's a large part of politics, especially from politicians themselves, that's totally cynical. It's totally, they're just doing things to support their own power base. Mm-hmm. But for the mass of people, that's not necessarily, true for. Their politics do stem from some philosophical position, or they claim that it does. So to just say, oh, we can throw away the philosophical debate and just care about the politics is kind of crazy.
Yeah, most people want to maintain ideological consistency if they can. That's usually a foundational point of anyone's philosophy.
Right. And also this is very disingenuous, because it's like, under political conflict, it's, should the law protect trans people from discrimination? And it's like, if you ask J.K. Rowling, she'll say,
yes. Hell yeah.
But then she has a different definition of what encompasses discrimination. And she would say, oh, they should still have separate bathrooms or whatever.
Right.
And then Contra says, no, you saying that they should have separate bathrooms is discrimination.
Yeah.
And then the disagreement between what exactly is categorized as discrimination, that's not a political conflict. That's an intellectual, ideological, philosophical conflict about the nature of discrimination and the nature of being trans. And so for Contra to just basically say we can ignore the intellectual, philosophical aspect of this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
It's so fucking stupid. It's bafflingly fucking stupid and nonsensical. It's basically just, maybe this is what I said earlier. I didn't even realize it. That's why this video comes off like Contra used to always be the Tim Pool of bread tube. She'd always say, it's complicated. It's complicated. And this is basically her saying, I'm not going to say it's complicated anymore. I'm just going to say, fuck the complications. I'm just never going to think about them. And you don't have to either.
Yeah. Here, let me give you excuses why you don't have to. The thing that just really destroys any credibility on this argument is, in my heart of hearts, I know that if you sat down and tried to hammer out some sort of compromise with them in which they got every fucking thing they could possibly ever want, it still wouldn't be good enough for them. Like, you could say, listen, okay, we'll make a third bathroom only for trans people that is opulent. There will never be any waiting. It will never be dirty. It will never be unstocked, right? There's always this third option that it will be private. It will be, whatever they want. They can make the list, whatever they want for their own personal bathroom. They would still categorize it as discrimination. Like it could be the Learjet of fucking of bathrooms, and it would still be somehow discrimination.
Well,
listen, we will turn all the cis bathrooms into the dirty gas station bathroom. We will not only make sure your bathroom is opulent, no one will be able to go into a bathroom that is not filthy.
It's later in the video, and this might be coming up. There's like this weird moment of like super self-awareness that Contra has about why a lot of the transgender activists or trans activists and transgender community have this obsession with identity. But then she doesn't bring it to like the next step in understanding why a lot of the conversation is inherently stupid or wrong.
I'm a pragmatist. I want to just hammer out a solution and we can move on. But this is why this stuff is so disingenuous, because they don't want a fucking solution. None of them want a solution. They just want they enjoy reveling in the problem.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's sad. And it's a way different type of mental illness. You got to move on.
Social equality of transgender people. And the effectiveness of that strategy is actually a reason I'm not a huge fan of the slogan, trans women are women. And this is just my opinion. I don't speak for any other trans people, but there's a couple things I don't like about it. One is trans men and non-binary people matter just as much as trans women, but you don't as often hear trans men are men, or non-binary people are valid. Doesn't really work, does it?
Why is she laughing at non-binary people? That's so bigoted.
How dare she?
I'm very offended.
The other problem with trans women are women is it tends to invite the response, well, what does it even mean to be a woman? Define womanhood. And now you're immediately getting baited into some bullshit semantic debate about what is a real woman. A real woman. How do you know you're a real woman, Amber? What if you're in the Matrix right now? And in the real
So this is like, when I first listened to this, my brain like fell out of my head. The entire basis for the transgender argument is a semantical categorical argument about whether there should be a categorical distinction between trans women and cis women. That's the current debate that underpins everything. All the stuff about the bathrooms and all the shit, that's the underpinning fact here. And so for Contra to then turn around and say, this is just a bullshit semantical argument. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's the entire conversation.
Yeah, that's your argument.
real world, you're biologically male. The tables are turned. It doesn't really matter, does it? This is metaphysics, and life is too short for metaphysics. You know, I've been down this road too many times already, and I always end up having these dead-end conversations about gender performativity, or worse, conversations about what it means to feel like a woman. Well, the truth is, I don't.
See, this is what I'm saying. She has that video where it's basically she's arguing herself, both sides of the question of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be transgendered, and she can't come up with a solution. So her solution now is to just throw that entire line of thinking in the trash because it's too complicated for me to figure out.
It's complicated.
It's complicated. There's a very interesting debate that Contrapoints had with Blair White a few years ago. And
I
it's
remember
basically,
that.
they basically have two positions. Blair White's position is, I believe that there is an objective reality, and understanding what is objectively true is very important for the well-being of humanity and society. And then Contra's position is, there could be an objective reality, but it doesn't really matter. All that matters is making people feel better about themselves.
Yeah. We got another $20 super chat. I missed it.
Alex Stewart for $20 says, thank you, Alec, says, Contra doesn't realize she's painted a pretty broad brush as to what indirect bigotry is, that you can easily flip it on her and say, she is an indirect bigot. Good job, Natalie. Turns out it takes a bigot to know a bigot.
Yeah.